Unfiltered with Dave Letele, and this week I'm joined by my great friend Kai-Ora. Now, obviously there's been a lot of bad press around them and their funeral home at the moment, but I reached out to her and I said, I want people to hear your side, in a safe place where you know that nothing's going to be cut and edited. I just want you to come and share. But in that, we found out so much about her life, growing up in the far north, losing her father at quite a young age, then her journey with Te Reo, meeting her partner Francis, moving on to then opening up their own funeral home, Tipene Funerals, and all the ups and downs of that. And also, her journey with her children and finding time. I'm always trying to find out how families balance, especially people that are really busy. I'm always trying to find that out, not only for myself, but for others out there as well. So don't forget to like, comment, share this conversation far and wide. Kai-Ora, enjoy. Before we get started, Unfiltered with Dave Letele is proudly part of the Acast network and produced by the amazing team at Fanaticals. This episode is brought to you by my good friends, Trust Motors. Now, they're an amazing company that support everything we do in the community. I've known them for a long time, so if you're looking for a new car, trading in your car, whatever the case may be sure to support those who support the community. Trust Motors, how car buying should be. Man, we have been blown away by the success so far of Unfiltered with Dave Letele. The response, the comments, the stories that are being told are absolutely amazing, and we feel really privileged to be able to bring you these conversations. They are so important. So if you think they're important just like us, we need your support via Patreon. So only if you're able to pay for this, please. If you can't, I don't want you to pay for it. Every single dollar helps. Every single dollar will go towards making these stories blow up like they should be. Mainstream media aren't telling these stories yet. These are the stories to me that need to be told and held up on a pedestal to inspire the world. So that's why we're bringing Patreon. That's why we're implementing this tool as a way that we can continue to tell these stories to the best of our ability. And we feel very privileged to be able to do this. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And let's go. Kai-Ora, kia ora sis.
Tēnā koe.
How are you going?
Good. Thank you for having me. It's beautiful.
Thank you for coming on.
Dave Letele actually asking me to come on here and have a kōrero with you is a privilege, so thank you.
Oh, thank you, sis. It's first of all, I just want to say thank you for your support. Your husband's support of us last year. Going through all the drama you were going through, and then still sending us over a koha when our freezer got damaged and we lost all that meat. Really appreciate you guys for doing that.
Thank you. I heard your tangi, and you had this aim to have kai sorted for Christmas, and that hit me. There's going to be whānau out there that's going to miss out on a bit of kai for their Christmas, and that's when I went, all right, how can we help him help these whānau? Let's just tap in and say, brother, what's your bank account? Let us give you a koha to help that whānau, help all your whānau that you're supporting. So I'm glad we were able to assist and send some manaaki and koha in some space in your need. So
that was awesome, sis. Talk to us about where did you grow up? Talk to us about your childhood.
I like to say or believe that I was of humble beginnings. I was brought up in Kaitaia in a 4-bedroom home. There's 12 siblings, 6 girls and 6 boys, and my parents had one room, and then you had a room for the boys and the room for the girls, so that's what we called it, boys' room, girls' room, and then the other room was for our oldest brother who had a wife and kids. So you had approximately 16 of us living in this 4-bedroom home, and it was quite normal for me. That was the normal upbringing. Everyone had their part to play. You had to, there was a chore list, and everyone had to contribute, even though we didn't have much. I feel that we were rich in tikanga, we were rich in whānau principles. My father and my mother expressed the importance of being together as a whānau. I look back on my upbringing and I wouldn't change a word for it. I would go back and if there's anything that I'd love to do is to actually go back and listen to the teachings of my parents and take in everything that I could. I lost my dad when I was 10, and we were of I would say we were a fatherless generation, but we had no dad. My mum, she is the example in my life. She raised 12 of us on her own at the age of 43. Our eldest brother, at that age, he had moved out of home with his whānau, and they moved over to Australia to form their own life. So when our father died, he came back to help support our mum. And, we didn't have much, but our mother made something out of nothing.
Yeah, and like understanding the life the way I do now, I mean, that's rich.
Yeah.
Was it a te reo home? Is that where you learned from a young age?
So our father, he was the real Māori speaker in our whare. So every huimate there was, every birthday or wedding, he was the one that would encourage us to get up. Okay, like after school. And it's funny because back then I was complaining. Me and my siblings, we would complain, go, we're going back to the marae again. Now, so we all had our duties. Like some of us will go into the marae. We'll go into the marae as a whānau, go through the pohiri process. And once Dad had a mihi, we would do his waiata, complete his waiata, and then we were allowed to go outside and play. Okay, everyone's in the famous game back then, or probably is still now, is bull rush.
Yeah.
And everyone wanted to play bull rush. So we were in a hurry to get out of the marae because we don't want to sit around and listen to them having a kōrero. But he would force us to stay in that marae as long as he could, to listen, engage the tikanga that's going on. And then when we were allowed to go outside, we'll play. But our elder siblings, if he did let them go, they needed to go to the kitchen. They weren't allowed to go and play.
Yeah.
So they had to go and help peel potatoes, shell the kutai, make themselves useful. And if he saw any of our siblings outside playing, it was the end of the world. So our dad was our mover, our tikanga advisor, and he would do his best to encourage that in our home. But we were brought up in the mainstream system. We went to kohanga. Back then, Kaitaia Rohe didn't have a kura kaupapa Māori established at the time. And that was okay. There was a bilingual unit that we were allowed to be part of, which had a bit of both reo Māori and Pākehā. But I later followed my reo Māori journey at Unitec, and I was taught by Te Kauhoi Wano, Kokahine Taumanu, and both of them have passed away. And also Scotty Morrison.
Awesome.
Yeah, he was a crack-up of a kaiako. He would take us into Te Karere to watch him, and that was probably one day of learning with him. Go, okay, cool, is this where Reo Māori's going to get us?
Yeah.
Hey, in front of Te Karere stream? Oh, no problem. But that whole Reo Māori journey, it took me back to being able to communicate with my people. And I think at the end of, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Reo Māori evolves every day. And so new kupu have been established, and you're like, gee, okay, how can I utilise this kupu today, or new kiwaha coming out, how can I use this kiwaha today? And sometimes I do feel a little bit like intimidated by a lot of my tuakana out there, and I go, gee, I'll just stay quiet while they're having their little mihi. And then when they turn around and they look at me and they ask me for advice, and I have to whakahoki mā te reo Māori, I'm like, tika. And I'll just keep it like that. They go, gee, that one, she needs to add a little bit more. But no, tautoko, that's it. So at the same time, you have to feel uncomfortable in those positions, because we're not learning if we're not being challenged. And I know when I'm being challenged, and especially if we're getting growlings by our aunties, uncles, and our tuakana. If we're not getting those growlings, we're not going to develop. So I appreciate all of these types of challenges that come my way. When my dad died, However, when he passed, I felt that our reo Māori passed, and I felt that our tikanga had lost in our whare, had also passed. And so when I went on my reo Māori journey and I was able to feel confident and be fluent to converse with others, it was at that moment where I had my own little tangi and I was able to say to myself, look, if I did see my dad again, I'd be able to have a kōrero with him and I'd feel complete. And I'm sure he would feel happy to see his daughter being able to converse with him. And yeah, so that was a milestone for me in my life, was to take that opportunity to learn our mother tongue. And I am, I try now to continue that with my tamariki. One of our sons, he loves haka, absolutely loves haka. And he went to a mainstream kohanga, I'd say, like a daycare, which had no reo Māori whatsoever. But there came an opportunity for him to attend the Kura Kaupapa Māori school. So when we sat in the principal's, Tumuaki's office, and she's asking me, having a reo Māori conversation, she's like, and how do you expect your boy to converse with others if he doesn't have him now? And we gave her some promises and said, look, we can do this at home. We can enforce karakia with him at home, mā te reo Māori, we can waiata te reo Māori, we can talk with him. And it just so happened that our eldest son at the time was at Kai-Ora. So both boys were coming back, encouraging each other to speak reo Māori, and it was the best feeling to have at home. And now I'm just very proud that at least one of our tamariki are attending Kura Kaupapa Māori school in the total immersion unit.
How important do you think it is, we work in prisons and we work in a rangatahi space, right? 100% of the youth we're working with are Māori, all of them. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. Then a lot of it is we base it around kapahaka, maurako, bit of te reo. It's funny when you talk about the what do you call it, the tikana? I don't know anything about it, and we've got our one guy called Timmy who's like your father for us. He leads all of that stuff, and it's funny because whenever things are at our BBM space, I always say, bro, keep it quick, keep it quick. No one understands what you're talking about. Keep it quick.
You want to keep talking.
but it's cool to know the process, and he does what he has to do.
Yeah.
So we're doing our just basic pepeha.
Yeah.
And it was really sad to see that, most of them didn't know where they were from. But you saw the power once they learnt their pepeha and just learnt a little bit about, where they're from, their maunga, their awa, you see it though, you see the change in them.
Yes.
And, how proud they were just to know the real basic. And I'm on the same journey as them. I know real basics amounts. And, but it was a powerful thing to see, that it's how good it is for them. Just to have that, just real basic, you see the change in them.
Yes.
And for me, it was like when I first saw my maunga, because I'm memorising the stuff. Timmy writes that I'm trying to memorise it for when I've got to go to these formal events, And I saw kakepuku, my maunga, and I went, wow. You just on paper, you just memorise. Then when you see it, I felt something, and I went to my marae, and it started raining when I got there, and the person, my cousin who took me to this, bro, your tipene are rejoicing that you're here. These are their tears. And I was like, oh man. Because it was normal, nice weather as we're going in. And as soon as I got there, it was pouring. And when we left, it finished.
It's powerful, isn't it?
How important do you think it is for, because so many of our rangatahi are lost?
Yeah. Look, for me, it's important to educate our rangatahi or educate, well, let's just start for me as a person. It's important for me to know where I belong, where I come from. And that's should be standard across for all of us as Māori. Know who you are. Who are your parents? Who are their grandparents? Where are they from? The moment you learn where your father is from and then his grandparents, man, you've opened up a whole lot of whakapapa and pepeha. Next minute you belong to all maunga.
Yeah.
That's just your dad's side. And then you learn your mother's side. She's also of a particular iwi or iwi, lots of them. And I think even now for me, when I get up and I'm quite selective, which is naughty, it's very naughty, because we're taught to say where we're from and use all of where you're from. But I get selective and I'm like, oh, I'll just use my dad's side today. And the moment I use my mum's side, they're like, oh, she's from Waikato, she's Ngāti Maanga, I've never seen her before. You know, so you then get questioned like, oh, do you know this person? Do you know that person? And I don't. But at least I know that my mum is from there. My grandparents are buried there. And then the moment, and that's the beautiful thing about when you get up and you share your pepeha, you got many who can relate to you. They'll be able to make a connection, they hono. And they would come to you and say, hey, did you know that because you're part of this iwi, this is your hapu, and you've got all these types of whānau around there, and you learn about where you're from, even though you may not know exactly who lives in that area. At least when you get up and you share your pepeha, you are able to make a connection to others somehow. So going back to that pātai when you ask, how important is it to educate our rangatahi? Well, let me just say it's very important. There's nothing more proud than a parent or even the individual themselves, and they get up and they're able to recite their pepeha because they can say it wholeheartedly and say it with conviction. This is my maunga. Tēnei taku awa, tēnei taku mea, mea, mea. And I think, if I can share something, I remember going to my son, he's probably 19 now, he's going on 20. And I remember going to his whakapuaki, and he stood up and he shared his pepeha. And at the end of it, he had a bit of a tangi. And I was like, oh, why does he have a tangi? You know, we should be proud. So, and then later on, he's like, Mama, I'm from Paoringa. I said, yeah, cool, eh? Yeah. That's where my nan stays, and he has this big cry. And I'm like, oh, son. He was all of probably the age of 8, 9.
Wow.
And realising that he's from a beautiful place. And I thought that was big for an 8-year-old to feel that way. I could only just give him some comfort. And as a parent, I'm like, oh, okay, yes, you're crying, but I'm proud that you're feeling this way at the same time.
Yeah.
And those moments you have to cherish. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a... I think I come from a generation. I'm half Māori from Maniapoto.
Oh,
My dad's Samoan, yeah. And I'm actually on the Maniapoto board, Waihukirangi, which is the charitable arm of Tēnehene Nui.
It's a te kanawa whānau, isn't it?
Yeah, man. And I was there and I'm just out of like... I said, man, this is not my... I feel really uncomfortable. Like you said, you have to, be in those uncomfortable spaces and be comfortable in it. But I was, I said, I don't think I belong here because I can't speak te reo and I'm really early on my journey. And I said, that's not why you're here. it's your work that you do, for our people. So yeah, I do need to take that next step, and I think I need to go full immersion.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm all in. When I go on something, I got to be all in. What do you think? What's
Drown
the best?
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt that I was drowning at one stage, but I was learning and I was taking in so much. And when you are drowning in te reo Māori and tikanga Māori, it'll come. You'll be embraced with so much aroha and support around you, and I'm sure your whānau won't sort of distance themselves from you. They'll understand because they can see that there's a passion in you or some form of aroha that you want to give back to the iwi. I'm sure your whānau will be able to take you in, but they'll be like, right, let's just throw him all of this right now and see how he goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll do it.
Cool.
Watch the space. When did you meet Francis?
Yes, I met Francis at Te Wānanga Takiura, which is a total immersion reo Māori wānanga for adults. He was doing the reo rumaki course, and I was doing the teaching course. And at the time, it's going on 20 years now, Dave, him and I together. And I feel like it only just happened yesterday how we met. He would be part of teaching waiata in his class, and from my class I could hear these waiata being sung, and I was taught that when you hear a waiata, get in there and help sing it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I got up and I was about to walk out. I said, aroha mai, I'm just going to go and have a waiata there. Oh yeah, ka pai. That's the very thing about being in Māori wānanga institutions, that you can sort of awhi wherever you want. So you get up, and I went out and I went down to the hallway, and I'm jumping in this classroom, and they were looking at me like, oh, what is she doing? So I just started singing, like, oh, pai, kia ora. And my husband, Francis at the time, he was playing the guitar, singing away, and I got up and I just stood next to him and started singing the song. And he stops and he's like, are you okay? And I'm going, yeah, I'm going to help you. You're singing a waiata that I know, so I'm going to offer you. And he goes, oh, well, we'll sing it one more time, then you just need to sit over here. And I'm like, is he pushing me away? Okay, let's just carry on. So he started singing this waiata, and he goes, okay, right, everybody repeat after me, just me. He started singing the song, and I join in with him, you see. And he's like, hang on, stops the guitar, and doesn't tell me directly, but he tells everybody, hang on, sorry, just me. And he starts singing again. So I thought, oh, all right. At that moment, I actually didn't like him. I thought, this fella's trying to own the limelight by himself. But it wasn't about the limelight at the time for me. I was just wanting to awhi.
Yeah.
That's it. And then after that, him and I were able to form a connection and have an understanding about how we should be teaching waiata. And it just led to basically going to have kaitahi together. What I loved about our connection though, Dave, is that we were on the same journey of learning te reo Māori, and we were of similar backgrounds. He's from Pawaringa, which where our whenua taurikuara is. We grew up there, and we just were able to relate to one another in that space. I was just very proud to have someone who, one, knew where I was from too, knew my whānau. So I went going back and I'm telling my mum, how do I tell my mum, this girl who's got all these beautiful teachings, is of the Mormon faith. And because I wasn't the best Mormon in my sort of 20 ages, right? I got a bit, wayward. And my mum was still hoping that I would marry some like return missionary. So when I went home and I'm like, how am I supposed to tell my mum I've got a tane now and he's from Paoringa. So I went home and she was wondering why, I stopped going home, you see. Fell in love, just wanted to stay in Tamaki and hang out with my new love. Went back and I said, Mum, I just got something to tell you. She's like, oh, okay. What's going on, babe? Oh, I've got a friend, just a friend. And she knows when that word friend is big for my mum. She's like, oh, where's he from? The first thing she wants to know, where's he from? And I had to take a deep breath before I said it. I said, he's from Paoringa. Are you silly? I said, no, Mum. She says, oh, it's probably your cousin. and anyway, brought him back to the whare. She actually was able to have a connection with him. It took a while for her to trust him.
Yeah. And
she absolutely loved him. At first it was a bit rocky because I introduced him when I fell hapu. It's like, how do I tell my mum? Okay, firstly I've got this tane. How do I tell her that I'm pregnant to him? And well, now all of that's just all aroha.
Yeah. So you met Francis.
Yes.
How did you guys get into the funeral directing?
Yes. I met my tane. 3 months later, I'm hapu. He's feeling now the pressure to be the provider for the whānau. He gets offered this mahi back in Kaitaia working for Te Oranga Social Services Agency, and we moved back up home. We're there for about a year, and my baby now is at the time then was 3 months, and he comes home and he says, oh, Mum, I want to own our own business. And I'm like, oh, good on you, darling. That's the one. And I don't know what sort of business it is, but I'm like, oh, that's all good. At the same time, I'm thinking, oh, he's just going through that phase. So we'll see how he goes in the next week or two. The next day he comes back and he says, babe, guess what? Well, I've applied for a job down in Auckland as a funeral director and I start in February. And I'm like, huh? And he goes, but don't worry. I've even got your job lined up too. You're going to be teaching over at Piripuno, Kura down in Otara. And I went, excuse me? He goes, yeah, it's all part of us going to own our own business. But I said, why funeral directing though? And he goes, we're going to own a funeral home. Oh, heck. And it wasn't until when we packed up our little room in Kaitaia and moved down to Tamaki, I realised, how he's really serious about this journey. And he worked for a small little cottage home out at Papatoe. And he was there for about 3 months. But in those first stages of him starting out as a funeral director, he had to buy his own uniform, his own suit. And we didn't have much at the time. So we'd go to Work and Income to apply for uniform sort of costs, which he was able to get. And I buzzed out. I was like, oh, darling, you've got that amount. You can go buy your own suit. Let's go to wherever we could go to, because Hellensteins weren't his size at the time. My husband was quite voluptuous back then. And we had to go to places where he could fit a suit. Anyway, managed to buy him a suit and we were all proud, like, oh, cool, taking photos of him. You got your own suit for your first job as a funeral director. And then I realised he was hardly ever home. He then moved over to another funeral home organisation at Mpemio, known as Ngā Hauiwha. And it was there where he was given a lot of experience and opportunities. Now, one night, he rings me up. Like I said, I hardly ever saw him. I was a little bit worried how he came home some evenings, because any little stain I saw on him, whether it was just a water stain, I was uncomfortable. I'm like, bro, you need to take off your uniform or your suit, put it in the bucket over there so I can wash it, and then you can have it later. And he's like, what do you mean you're going to wash it? I said, I just need to get rid of, like I'm needing to have a pity of his uniform. And it'll be ready by the next day. That was how it was at the time. Anyway, I hardly ever saw him. And it was like I had to go to him to see my husband at Mahi for a catch-up date. And I'd take a home-cooked meal to him, sit down at his office, have a bit of 10-minute, 15-minute with him, and then go. And in those times, he wouldn't offload much, but I can see that the mahi that he was doing at the time did weigh on him. One evening, he rings me up and he says, oh, look, babe, can you come and help me? I said, yeah, of course. I was just lucky I had my sister down at the time from Kai-Ora. She was staying for the weekend. I left her with my kids. I said to her, look, I've got to go and help my tani, I won't be long. So I get up there, it was probably about 10 o'clock at night. I said, is everything all right? Said, yeah, I need you to help me. We're going to transfer fire from the mortuary table onto the dressing table. And you help me place her in the dressing room for the whānau to come through and dress. And you just need to assist me for this evening. Okay, pai. Well, that was my first encounter with a loved one. And you can feel the texture of this tūpāpaku. You know, kua mate, they passed away. And it's cold, you know, and you're just like scared. In your mind, you're like, oh, how? Okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to help this loved one. And you had to get over your fears, because it's not about me at the time. I had to think about this loved one. And this loved one going back to their whānau, because they want her home. So I had to tell myself, Kai-Ora, get into this mode. You're here to help them. You're here to help your tani. Let's go. So I placed her on the dressing table, on dressing bed, moved her into the dressing room, invited the whānau through. And this is all my first encounter with this mahi. And the whānau like, thank you, beautiful, lovely to meet you. I'm like, oh, not many people would love to meet me under these circumstances, but beautiful. Mum's in the room, come through. You're taking them through to the room. You close the door because you know they need their time with her. And you can hear the tangi. And in that moment, I'm still saying to myself, asking myself, can I do this? Can I do this? Nothing more sad or pōri in those moments when you can hear the tangi. Ooh, you can hear it. You can feel it. And then my tani's like, oh, look, babe, come on, we got to go in and dress. But she's wāhine, and they're going to need you to assist. Can you do it? Yeah, I'll do my best. You go in the room. Say, kia ora whānau, it's here to awhi you fellas. Help them through that process, dressing their loved one. My tane comes in. Once their loved one's dressed, whānau go and wait. I help place her into her moinga, into her casket. She's looking beautiful and presented for the whānau. They then walk back in to see her in her moinga, and they tangi again. And it's in those moments where they turn around and they tell you, Kai-Ora, my mum looks so beautiful. Thank you. And that's when I realised I love this mahi. Why haven't I been here to help my tani through this? Why have I been fearful of this mahi? And that's when I knew, all right, darling, let's do this journey together. Let's form our own mahi. I'm unsure how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it. And he's definitely the tohunga in this mahi for us. He leads us in all the practical sides of things. I'm still learning from him. He's a master at presenting loved ones for their whānau. He's very picky in the detail on how your loved one should be presented. And that's a standard that we love to have at Tipene funerals. It's not being too picky. It's about the loved one and how they've presented to their whānau and how the whānau feel about their loved one. So I love what I do, Dave. And there have been some challenging moments, absolutely. There's some unexpected situations where suicide's always a big one. You have accidents, be it car accidents, work accidents. You have homicides, and you see the abuse. Our tamariki are the hardest. You have cancer, all those natural causes. Although, they're natural, and sometimes we get time to prepare with our loved one. You are aware that, yes, they're going to pass away. So it's still challenging, no matter what the situation is. It's challenging. When you're coming to that stage of accepting your loved one is going to pass or has passed, that will always be a challenge.
How did you get into the show Casketeers?
Yeah. Annabelle Lee Mather, she is, at the time, she was a producer, presenter for Native Affairs. And she also was I believe, a po for the hui. So she had an idea on TV, and her and I were talking one evening on Facebook, and she messaged to say, hey, I was thinking about a show with you and Francis and following you guys with your mahi. And I went, at the funeral home? And she goes, yeah, it'll be like the Māori Kardashians type. And I'm like, oh gosh, really? But we really don't have much at our funeral home, There's not much. It's just the basic necessities. And she goes, no, pai. All good. We just want to follow your journey and how you care for your loved ones. So I went, okay. I was a bit hesitant at first, but then in that same breath, I went, okay, cool. What is it going to look like? She says, oh, look, just trust me. We're just going to come with the camera and we'll follow you. Oh, all right then. Well, anyway, I had to tell my husband somehow, and he wasn't about TVA. He really doesn't like the camera. I don't know, believe it or not, he really doesn't like the camera. I had to let him know that, look, there's this idea, and Annabelle wants to come and film our mahi. And he was like, do you know how disrespectful that sounds? I went, how? This is about, celebrating the life of a loved one. And he goes, well, I don't know about this. And I might have to have a kōrero with our aunties and uncles, because then now you're showing Te Papaku on TV. And that was where he was coming from.
Yeah.
And so him and I were having a few battles about accepting this show. And I said to him, look at the news. The news is putting all the tangi out there. 10 years ago was, even still now, 10 years ago, I reckon even 15 years ago, you would see the funeral, the hearse show up to the marae. You'll see a casket go on to the marae, and it was quite normal. And I said, look, if we're going to do this, then let us be the ones to show whānau out there how we do grieve and how we can care for our loved ones. So he finally came around to it. And Annabelle then came in and she brought her crew. It was different to have a camera in that space, but you had to trust that whatever they were going to do, that had to be in the way that's going to portray us in a beautiful light. Last thing we wanted, which we always asked, and they were always respectful of, is to not disrespect the whānau. And I like to believe that the show has lifted the stigma around the taboo or the tapu of caring for loved ones. I will always say loved ones. I don't really like to say bodies or we're quite big on our terms in our mahi. There's a difference between we're going to put mum over here with the word place. We're going to place mum over here. Big difference. Put, place. Putting is somewhat like you use objects. Mum's not an object. Mum's not an object. So, yeah.
And the show ended up doing amazing, eh?
It did. We've had 6 seasons.
Wow.
6 seasons of it. Come to the last season, I think we did feel a little bit tired. I wouldn't say tired, but we feel that we've given enough to educate everyone around life and death and that type of process. I've always been big. I had a goal that if we were going to do the show, it would be to educate everyone about death, about funerals. And it's okay to mourn. It's okay to grieve. I've had lots of conversations around how the show has helped people grieve. I had a conversation with a kuia one time. She was a beautiful Pākehā wāhine, kuia, sorry. And she said to me, she goes, do you know, your show has taught me so much in the space of 1 hour than I learnt in my whole life.
Wow.
And I was so privileged. You know, I'm like very humbled by her words. Excuse me. And then she shared that she wished her parents allowed her to see her grandmother when she died. She felt that the privilege to grieve at the time was ripped away from her. And she has been encouraging her tamariki to be part of or engage more in the loss of their loved one, to help them grieve. It's okay to bring your children to see their loved one, and it's okay to cry. Don't keep them at home, because by the time you get to the burial and they see their loved one being lowered, it's like, oh, we're going to leave them there. They've missed out on what's just happened.
The whole process, eh?
Yes. So I've had a lot of interesting kōrero. And so one thing that I like to, I feel I'm an advocate of, Dave, is, or what I like to push out there is to educate everyone about being prepared. Now, death is not your everyday conversation, I get that. But we do, at some point in time, need to have that discussion. We don't want to be caught off with, or caught out when it does happen to us. And a lot of us, we don't want to lose our loved ones. We don't want to accept that they're going to pass away someday, but it will happen. And at least if you were to have a discussion around what that might look like, then you may have some idea when it comes to the time. So some whānau, when they do engage in our services, they still haven't had a discussion whether mum or dad is for burial or for cremation. Are we for that idea? Are we for the idea of burial over cremation? And having even just that conversation, or even a conversation like, what type of casket do you want? My mum, she's So simple, eh? She's just like, no, just throw me in the ground. I don't want any of those caskets that you have on your shelf. Put me in the ground, I'm fine. Oh, really? What about like even just having a cardboard box or something? Something, if whatever, up to you. I just want to be put in the ground and don't have me above the ground more than 2 days. Oh, okay, Mum, no problem. So if that's a conversation that you're having with your parents,
I think that saves arguments down the line too with whānau,
Yes.
right? If you've had those conversations and this is exactly what that person wants, then that's what you do,
yeah,
as opposed to guessing and then arguing about, I've seen that a lot. And also, prepared, that's a good tip.
be prepared.
Just talk about it.
Just talk about it. It could be simple as like the colour of your casket if you even want one. There's been situations where we would dress tūpapaku, the loved one, and they just want their loved one placed on their bed at home. On the funeral day, then bring the casket, we'll place them in their casket on the funeral day. And that's even beautiful too.
Yeah.
And there's many reasons why whānau want to do that. That's up to them. That loved one belongs to them. We're only there to assist their wants and needs. We're not going to tell them how that's going to be done. We can only advise around the legalities of things.
Yeah.
But other than that, up to you, whānau. I know during COVID times that was hard. That was very, very difficult. So we would try and encourage whānau to keep their loved one at home for as long as they wanted to. And then we will come through and uplift and either cremate or bury. Because once that loved one was in our care, it was hard to have those gatherings.
Geez, what a crazy time that was.
That was very...
Not being able to have, people at the tangi. There's all these rules around it, eh?
I feel some of the whānau now are still suffering from grieving because they actually didn't get to have the proper goodbye with their loved one. I feel that that's been missed. Some whānau were able to have their tangi weeks on, like that first lockdown. I reckon we probably would have had about 28 loved ones in our care, and they waited out 4, 6, 8 weeks before they come through to uplift and take back. And of course back home or in some of the iwi, they'll have strict regulations or strict guidelines, around burial, where whānau would have to go dig their own hole, because most urupa will have their own diggers, graveyard diggers. So whānau were told back then to dig their own hole, go straight to the burial ground, bury straight away, be in the urupa for no more than 10 minutes, have karakia and go.
Wow.
It was that strict. And I felt for a lot of iwi at the time as well, having to come up with their own guidelines. The pressure of ensuring the safety around all of that as well. But yeah, there was a lot of challenging funerals back then, Dave.
Yeah. I mean, and talking about challenges, sis, I know we got to just I really just wanted to give you your opportunity to, I know we can't go too much into it around this all this drama that's going on. That's why I appreciate you coming on as well. But I really just wanted to give you the opportunity to say whatever you want to say around it.
Yeah. The last 6 months have been challenging with the media. I won't say give a particular name of media, but I will say it's been challenging. That there have been some misleading headlines and straight defamation to our brand Tipene Funerals. I will still argue even now that my Tania and I have always had a high standards when it comes to the presenting of your loved one. And most whānau, if not in all situations, are present when we are to close the lid to that tūpapaku. So you can see, everyone can see what their loved one looks like before we either bury or cremate. And if you're not part of that process, then there's a raru. So we have always done that. My tāne and I have done that. I feel that when you go through the hiring of your staff, you build a rapport with them, right? And you take them in like they're your own whānau. They come from a background too. They have tamariki, they have a partner, or even parents. And when we take on a kaimahi, we try and get them to bring all their whānau to our staff functions, because 9 times out of 10, that kaimahi is going to be with us majority of the day. They become our whānau. And we like to ensure that our kaimahi are loved. This mahi is big. You know, looking after loved ones is an opportunity. At the same time, it does come with a lot of toll, taumaha. And then to go back home and often probably have to talk about that with their whānau can be big for them too. So we like to feel that, hey, bring your whānau in for kaitahi or something, and let's all be together. And we do know every single one of our staff in their whānau. So in that time that you're building that rapport, you're building that aroha, you're building that bond and trust, you feel that you can rely on them. They know you, you know them, they know your standards, and you trust that they follow that through. And then when we as bosses or as overseers of the company, we leave for a little bit, we go away, whether that be a holiday or go to our own tangi back home. You like to believe that when you leave that mahi, it's going to continue your standards and your practices. You come back and you get complaints and you go through a little bit by bit. How did it get like that? Why didn't you follow this through? Why are you being ignorant to that? Do you know how much mama you've caused, not just for us or you, the mama you've caused on that whānau? Why did you do that? And then when, media get involved and they put up ugly pictures of yourself and they plaster you everywhere, put a false narrative on half the shit that they try and say about you, it becomes heavy. It becomes heavy. And there came a time where I felt that I didn't like myself. I didn't like myself, and it probably been about, I'd say, a week, maybe 2 weeks. That may be short to someone, but that was a long time for me. And I had to dig deep, so deep. I was going home, taking all of the concerns, not of the media. I hated them, yes. But the misleading information that they had generated so much. And they're a powerful influence out there, eh? Powerful. Just a fake headline, oh my gosh, this is her, this is him, this is what they do. Ka-ore. So I went through this dark hole for a moment. I didn't even have time for my kids. And it was so hard. I didn't have time for my kids. I didn't even want to face my husband at some point. Although he was going through his own thing, he too is going through a challenge, because I'm like, okay, how am I going to deal with this? How can we deal with this? And you're angry at a particular individual. You believe that your processes are in place, are onto it. So while I'm in that dark hole, I was saying to myself, look, Kai-Ora, you need to get up, girl. There are people out there that really don't want you to succeed. There's people out there that are envious of where you are. They're trying to tear you down. Get up and show everybody who you really are. And the only way I could feel that I could master myself through all the shit that was going on was to continue to be me. Continue to look after the loved ones we knew how, and allow the feedback and the word of mouth of families who continue to engage in our services to speak wonders for us. That's helped me through all of this. I had to remember me. I had to remember our mahi and believe in what we could do and what we always have done. It was an oversight. There was a blimmin' oversight. There was a lot of trust put into an individual in your absence. What I can say now is we're going to continue to be us. We have put other processes in place to ensure it will never happen again. And I'm blessed that there are still families that come to us and still love our mahi no matter what. It's been a challenging time also for my tāne. He went into a space also. I couldn't share with him my mama because I could already see it was eating away at him. And I had to find another outlet. I had to go through my own little supervision or something. Okay, how can I do this? Like, get yourself right, Kai-Ora, because your whānau's going to break in front of you if you don't look after yourself. In that way, I was able to support my husband. He took it 10 times worse, of course. He took it 10 times worse. He's like, like I said, he's a people pleaser. And he's all about ensuring whānau are happy. Everyone else is happy before him. Everyone else is happy before his own whānau. That's him. He wears his heart on his sleeve. You know, open book. He'll tell you the truth of everything. Sometimes it's really bad. I'm surprised our doors are still open the way he is. But he too went through a challenge, a mental breakdown, and is still trying to work through this. But we've been able to rely on the feedback of our current families to help us through this. Our staff have been very supportive, and they too have taken a toll on some of the bad publicity that's out there. They're in the middle of a procession trying to drive to the cemetery with the two papaku and their loved one on our way to the cemetery, and then you've got fingers going at your hearse.
Jeez, that got that bad?
It got that bad. And they're just like, our poor staff are just trying to do their mahi and to continue to do their mahi. But when you've got things out there that are telling the public some misleading information, it's hard. something happened in our mahi and under a particular individual that has made it bad for us. And we're just doing our best to rebuild our mahi brand.
What would be one message you want to say to the public? Just from you, as opposed to what they're getting fed from media.
Yeah. Well, the media isn't always what they say it is. So don't believe them. Secondly, well, don't always believe them. Secondly, if there's any whānau out there that are feeling hurt by the mahi of a particular individual, I'm sorry. We're sorry. And we've done our best to work through making it right with whānau that have come forward. And thirdly, Tipene Funerals is not going anywhere. We're going to continue to be proud in our mahi, continue to show we're Māori and we love it. It's our Māori principles, standards and tikanga that have got us to where we are today, and we're going to continue to exercise tikanga through our mahi. And I believe that our mahi, all of its successes have come about because of acknowledging manaakitanga, tiakitanga and aroha. So yeah.
You know, I always think that, well, I know greatness comes from struggle. You know, you guys are going through some tough times, but you'll get through it and, you know, be even more great than you already are. You know, just keep pushing through. And one thing I always think about is, you know, my why going through tough times. You know, and I ask all of my guests, you know, what is your why to get you through tough times?
It's funny you say that, my why. I'm part of so many forums and discussions in wānanga, and we always go back to that. What is your why? It's funny how we have to be reminded almost every day what our why is, who our why is. And it's not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing to be reminded. I'm just probably saying that I shouldn't be reminded of this every part of the day. But I have on my phone certain images of my tamariki that pop up. And that's a constant reminder, as well as remembering your why. I have only one of my sons that are interested in our mahi. He's been interested in this mahi since probably 4 years old. I've got a photo of him all dressed up in a suit, helping his dad put the lid on, put the screws on. And he's turning 12 now, and he's turning 12 now, and he still wants to wear a suit to mahi, even though he knows that, look, you can wash the cars in your everyday clothes or in your uniform from kura, get at the back, go help your brother at the back, they go wash the car. He wants to put the suit on because he's at the funeral home. So he's showing some passion for continuing this mahi. I hope I'm praying one of them, because the others, they're like, oh no. Others are showing that they want to be sparky or automotive engineering, so completely away from our mahi, from our business of funeral directing. So it's beautiful to know that at least one of our tamariki are interested. I just hope that they can continue to practice those teachings that we give them.
Oh, that's amazing, sis. Thank you so much for joining me As always, sitting down, having these conversations, I've learnt a lot. Keep being amazing, sis. Keep being proud to be Māori, you and your tāne, Francis, and all your family. And keep showing us what's possible, and this little struggle you're going through, it will pass and you'll get through it and be even better. Yeah. Thank you so much, sis.
Thank you for having me. My husband, though, actually, he was very envious to know I was coming to this podcast. He's like, oh, so me to the bro. I was, yeah, I know. I'm going to say hello to Dave on his podcast too. It's pretty cool. So, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a privilege to have this kōrero with you.
Awesome, sis. If you made it this far, thank you so much for the support. It really does mean so much to us. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment on our videos and share this out. These stories are so inspiring and they need to be heard by everyone. Thank you so much, team.